Guys, magandang umaga. May tanong ako bago tayo magsimula. Sa tingin niyo, ano mas naka-apekto sa trabaho natin? Performance o mga katangian or mga mood ng isang tao? Sa tingin niyo, ano yung mas nakaka-apekto?
Mood ko, kapag bandi ako, kahit simpleng task, parang ang bigat.
I agree, kahit may skills ka, kung stress ka, hindi rin productive.
Ikaw,
Tama. Hindi lang kung ano ang kaya mo, kundi paano at bakit mo ito ginagawa. Ang mahalaga. Kaya ngayon, titingnan natin ang papel ng personality at attitude sa workplace.
tama.
So, may kinalaman din ba ito kung gaano tayo kasaya sa trabaho?
Go. Exactly. Apektado nito ang teamwork at innovation. Pati na ang mga employee at retention natin lahat.
Interesting yan. Akala ko dati tools at skills lang. Parang gumawa ng isang team.
Tama. Tools help, pero attitudes connects it all. Kaya gagamit tayo ng personality tulad ng Big Five, MBTI para mas maintindihan natin ang sarili at isa't isa.
So, may personality test kami.
Please just say, baka may bagong bagay tayong matutunan. Ano? Game na ba kayo? Ikaw, game ka na ba?
Understanding personality. Personality refers to the unique and enduring patterns of thought, feelings, and behavior that characterize an individual. It influences how people respond to various situations and how they interact to others. Personality is shaped by both biological and environmental factors and remains relatively stable over time, although it can evolve with life experiences. The nature of personality is complex, encompassing both consistency across situations and the capacity of change. It serves as a framework through which individuals perceive the world, make decisions, and form relationships. Key perspective from psychologist Gordon Allport. Allport emphasized individuality and introduced the trait theory of personality. He characterized traits into three levels. Cardinal traits includes dominant and defining characteristic. Central traits like general characteristic found to some degree in every person, and secondary traits like preference and attitudes. The next psychologist is Raymond Cattell, and Cattell focused on identifying and measuring basic personality traits. He developed the personality factor, the 16 personality factor model, distinguishing between surface traits, observable behaviors, and source traits, deeper underlying personality factors. And the next psychologist is Robert Hogan. Hogan introduced the psychoanalytic theory of personality, which links personality to reputation and the roles individuals play in social groups. His approach focuses on how personality affects success in work and social life. Components of personality: internal versus external characteristics. Internal characteristics, these are the traits and disposition that lie within the individual. The example is temperament, values, beliefs, emotional patterns, cognitive styles. And the second characteristic is external. This refers to how personality is expressed and perceived in the external world, including behavior and actions, social rules and relationships, cultural influences, and environmental responses. Together, internal and external components create a dynamic system that defines how a person experiences the world and how the others perceive them. Personality refers to the unique and enduring patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behavior that define an individual. It includes both internal aspects like emotion and motivation, and external traits like social behaviors. And the Gordon Allport emphasized the importance of traits, distinguishing between cardinal, central, and secondary traits. Raymond Cattell also used the factor of analysis, identifying the 16 primary personality traits, forming his 16 PF model. Both theories contributed and significantly understanding personality by focusing on the role of traits in shaping individual behavior and experience.
And the next one is the Big Five personality model. The Big Five personality traits, also known as the OCEAN or Ocean model, are widely accepted framework in psychology. So, what is this OCEAN? The Big Five personality model. So the O, openness to experience, curiosity, open-mindedness, and appreciation for art and ideas. So it means na ang isang personalidad ay creative and open na mag-generate ng mga new ideas. So the next one is conscientiousness. So organization and diligence and reliability. So conscientiousness, ito ang mga personalidad na masyadong organized and responsible sa mga ginagawa nila at disiplinado. The next one is extraversion, sociability, assertiveness, and excitement seeking. So it means na ang mga ganitong personalidad ay mga outgoing lang, tapos energetic, at mahilig makihalubilo or socializable, I think. And the next is agreeableness, cooperation, empathy, and kindness. So it means na ang ganitong personalidad ay mabait, tapos cooperative at compassionate. Okay? And the next one, neuroticism. So, sensitivity to stress, anxiety, and emotional stability. So, ang mga ganitong personality ay prone sa stress, madaling matamaan ng mga madaling ma-depress or sa kanilang anxiety at hindi maganda ang kanilang mga emotional stability. And the next, the Myers-Briggs type indicator. The Myers-Briggs type indicator or MBTI categorizes personality into 4 binary dimensions. What are these? So first, introversion versus extroversion. So it means focus on internal versus external stimuli. Ang ibig sabihin nito, kapag introversions or introvert ito ang mga tao na nakakapag-recharge lang kapag sila lang mag-isa or yung tinatawag nila na alone time. Mas nagiging okay ang kanilang emotional health kapag sila lang mag-isa. And the extraversion is or extroverts. So ito yung mga tao na kinukuha ang kanilang energy or kanilang lakas sa group nila or kapag kasama nila ang kanilang mga kaibigan. Ayan. So, next is sensing versus intuition. Preference for concrete facts versus abstract possibilities. That means na sensing nakafocus sa facts and mga details and present reality. Ano siya, naka-focus siya sa pag-sense sensing sa details sa mga sa facts sa realidad. Intuition looks at patterns, meanings, and future possibilities. So, it means na nakatingin ito sa mga patterns, sa mga future preferences na pwedeng makita. Next, thinking versus feeling. Decision making based on logic versus emotion. So, when we say thinking, ang mga decision ay nakabase sa logic and fairness. So, ito ang mga decision na naka-base sa pwedeng mangyari. Advanced thinking ng isang tao. So, sa feeling, ito ang pagdidesisyon niya ay nakabase sa kanyang emotion, sa kanyang feeling. Kung feeling niya na okay ba ito na desisyon para sa taong ito, kung maapektuhan ba ito na specific na tao or hindi. Ganun ang pagka-decide sa feelings. So, next is judging versus perceiving. Preference for structure versus flexibility. So, sa judging, it prefers plan and order and structures. So, when we go to perceiving, it can go flexible and go with the flow, kumbaga. So, next, additional work-related aspects of personality in depth. These are traits that influence how employees behave, interact with others, and respond to challenges in the workplace. So, ibig sabihin lang nito ay kung paano mag-behave ang isang employee sa workplace, kung paano siya makitungo sa kanyang mga katrabaho. Ang number 1 ay locus of control. Internal locus of control, may dalawang type pala ito. Ang una ay internal locus of control. So, ang belief niya ay I can control my success through effort and decision. At work, these individuals are often self-motivated, takes responsibility for their work, and tend to be more persistent and goal-oriented. So, itong locus of control, itong internal locus of control, so, nakabase siya ito ay nakabase sa kanyang sarili, sa kanyang own effort. Sa kanyang own effort na kaya niyang siya mismo ang may control sa kanyang mga ginagawa, sa kanyang mga desisyon sa buhay-buhay niya. Example, kapag may nangyari sa workplace na nakagawa ng kasalanan itong ating tao na may internal locus of control. So, nakagawa siya ng kasalanan, ang gagawin niya, aakuin niya yung responsibilidad kasi alam niya na mali niya. So, yun. So, and the next is external locus of control. Ang belief nito ay my success depends on luck, fate, and or other people. At work, these employees may be more likely to blame external factors for failure and may feel powerless to change their situation. So it means na kapag may mga desisyon ito sa buhay ay nakabase ito sa swerte or kumbaga kontrolado ito ng panlabas ng mga bagay. Example, swerte, kapalaran, ibang tao or sitwasyon. Example, kapag yun pa rin yung example kanina, kapag ito ay nakagawa ng kasalanan, ang isang external locus of control ay ang kasalanan ito ay isisisi niya sa iba. Tapos kapag siya ay may nangyaring kapag ito ay may nangyaring maganda sa kanyang workplace, isisisi niya ito or ibibigay niya ito na dahil sa swerte. Yan yung locus of control. Ang pinagkaiba ng dalawa, ang internal locus of control ay siya ay kaya niyang panindigan yung mga sinasabi niya or kaya niyang or nakabase siya ay sa kanyang workplace, isisisi niya ito or ibibigay niya ito na dahil sa swerte. Yan yung locus of control. Ang pinagkaiba ng dalawa, ang internal locus of control ay siya ay kaya niyang panindigan yung mga sinasabi niya or kaya niyang or nakabase siya kontrolado niya yung kanyang mga desisyon sa buhay. Kesa naman sa external ay hindi niya kayang panindigan ang mga sinasabi, tapos kapag nagkakamali or nakabase siya sa swerte, kapag nagkakamali ay isinisisi sa iba. Okay? So next, self-esteem. Definition: self-esteem is a person's overall sense of worth or personal value. High self-esteem, confident in their abilities, willing to accept responsibility and take on challenges, more likely to push through setbacks. Low self-esteem doubt their skills and decisions, tend to avoid responsibilities or leadership roles, fear failure, and may struggle with feedback. So, high self-esteem, so they are confident sa kanilang mga abilities na nasa kanila, unless low self-esteem na may pagdududa pa rin sa kanilang skills at decision na kanilang ginagawa. So, ang impact, high self-esteem contributes to resilience and leadership potential, while low self-esteem can hinder growth and confidence. So, yung ang low self-esteem ay nakaka-apekto sa pag-grow ng ating sarili at sa ang ating confidence hindi rin na gumaganda. Next, risk-taking. Definition: these traits refers to an employee Employees comfort with uncertainty and making bold decision. High-risk takers. There are two types, high-risk takers and low-risk takers. Ang high-risk takers ay more willing to try new approaches and technologies, often innovative and entrepreneurial, may act before getting all the necessary and information. So, ang maganda dito sa high-risk takers ay hindi sila natakot na mag-innovate ng kanilang mga products. So, for example, ang ating mga trader dito sa Pilipinas, the high risk, they do the trade, the high reward they can get. So, low risk takers prefer routine and stability, may resist change or hesitate to act quickly. So, ang pros naman netong low risk takers ay kung gusto mo ng passive income or maintain lang yung income mo, dyan ka na lang sa low risk takers. Kasi kapag high risk takers ka, mas madali kang yung pera mo mas madaling gaganda or lalaki or mas madaling bababa. Yan yung sa high risk takers. So, ang impact, risk takers drive innovation, while cautious individuals can be key in maintaining consistency and minimizing mistakes. So, it can maintain consistency daw at ma-minimize lang ang kanyang mga pagkakamali. So, and the last one is proactive personality. Definition: proactive employees take initiative and act in advance to deal with potential future challenges. Characteristics: self-starters, forward-thinking, and not afraid to take a lead. They don't just react, they plan, suggest changes, and drive progress. So, itong proactive personality, no, ay hindi natatakot na maging leader. Ito ang mga TL kumbaga na-assign na maging TL kasi sila ay magaling magplano tapos magaling mag-suggest.
The nature of employee attitude. Employee attitude shapes how they feel and behave at work, and these attitudes are built from different components. They are three components of attitude. First, cognitive. Second, affective. Third, behavioral. First, cognitive. What an employee thinks. Example, I believe my company cares about my well-being. For instance, if an employee believes that their company genuinely cares about their well-being, that belief shapes how they feel and act at work. The second, affective, emotional response to the job. For example, I feel proud to work here. They are expressing a positive emotional connection to their workplace. Third is behavioral. What the employee intends to do based on the intelligent thoughts and feels. Example, I will work harder because I enjoy this job. Behavioral intention refers to the state of mind that influences a person's decision to engage in a specific behavior. In the context of employees, it reflects their willingness and plan to perform a certain action at work. There are types of workplace attitude. First, job satisfaction. Overall happiness with the job. It's a subjective evaluation of how content individuals are with various aspects of their job, such as the nature of work itself, the relationship with supervisor, comprehension, opportunities for growth, and the environment and work environment. Second, organizational commitment refers to an employee's psychological attachment to the company and their dedication to its goal. It compasses loyalty, a sense of belonging and willingness to go to the extra mile for the organization. And the last is engagement, emotional and psychological involvement in the work task. And it involves feeling connected to the job, the theme, and the organization. This attitude influences behavior such as performance, cooperation, and loyalty.
So here are the positive and negative effects of employee attitudes on an organization. So positive, better performance. Happy employees are more productive. So happy employees, they work better. Then next we have customer satisfaction. So satisfied employees lead to happier customers. So like this, satisfied workers make customers happy. The next we have lower turnover. So employees stay longer when they satisfied. Then next we have fewer sick days. So positive attitude reduce absenteeism. And next we have team spirit. So employees help each other improving. So it improves teamwork. Then next we have workplace negative. So workplace conflict. Bad attitudes can lead to tension. So it can cause conflicts. Then next we have poor communication. So disengaged employees don't share info well. So they have poor communication. No? Then next we have resistance to change. Negative employees resist new ideas. So the resistance to new ideas. They have new ideas, no? But the next we have lower productivity. So disengaged employees do bare minimum. So less effort and low productivity.
Now, let's move to studying job satisfaction. Job satisfaction simply refers to how happy or content an employee is with their job. But this goes beyond just liking your task. It includes how you feel about your coworkers, your boss, your pay, work environment, and even company's values. So, why does job satisfaction matter? Because it's directly linked to performance, motivation, and employee attention. Satisfied employees are more productive, more creative, and more loyal. On the other hand, those who are dissatisfied may perform poorly, feel unmotivated, and eventually leave the organization. Now, let's move to the two categories of outcomes. We can group the outcomes of satisfaction into two categories. First is satisfied employees, and the second is dissatisfied employees. Satisfied employees tend to stay longer and show better teamwork and contribute a positive work culture, while on the other hand, dissatisfied employees are more likely to miss work, underperform, or quit their jobs. Now, you might ask, how do we measure something like job satisfaction? Here are some common methods used by companies. First is anonymous survey. This helps collect honest opinions without fear of judgment. Next is one-on-one interviews. These are more personal and allow deeper insights into specific concerns. Third is focus group discussion. Employees talk together in groups and common themes or issues can be identified. Next is exit and stay interviews. Exit interviews ask why someone is leaving, while stay interviews help you figure out what keeps people loyal. Fifth and the last is observation and metrics. Things like attendance, turnover, and performance can also reflect satisfaction levels. In short, studying job satisfaction isn't just about making employees happy. It's a strategy to improve the whole organization where we understand how people feel about their work. We can make better discussions that lead to growth, innovation, and stronger teams.
So next is the survey design. Survey design is the process of creating a set of questions to collect accurate, useful, and honest information from the people. In this case, employees about their thoughts, feelings, and experience. Think of it like this. A well-designed survey is like asking the right questions in the right way, so people feel comfortable sharing and you can get clear answers, you can act. What makes a great survey? So in this part is confident is the key. Let employees know their answers anonymous, they are more honest when they feel safe. So in this part gawin yung yung employee mismo or siya lang mismo yung nakakaalam sa kanyang sagot para wala siyang trust issue sa inyo or sa manager or kahit kanino. So tips for writing a questions, keep them short and clear. So avoid double-barreled question like this. Do you find the app useful and fun? So that's wrong. So split into this. Do you find the app useful? So make it short and clear. So avoid biased language like this. How amazing is our product? So that's wrong. So use this. How would you rate our new product? And this one, like avoiding leading question. Don't you think your manager is a great? So don't use that. Instead, how satisfied are you with your manager communication style? So use accurate, simple, and don't use misleading question to make a survey so the employee can answer or they won't think more to answer. So key tips, so keep it simple. So that's what I said, make it survey short and clear. Balanced question, ask both positive and negative questions. So test first, try the survey with a few people to ensure clarity. So just make 5 person to use 5 person to question. Don't use the whole environment in your office, so you can use clear questions. Using survey information. Survey information is the data collected from people through questions designed capture opinions, behaviors, preference, or demographics. So when employee give feedbacks, they want to see results. If nothing changed, they feel ignored. Taking action build trust and show that the company isn't listening. So in this part, you are questioning the employee, but their answer you didn't act it, you didn't, like example, your company is putting an elevator. So after a month, you make a survey question about the elevator, and one of the employee is said the elevator is shaking too much, but you didn't act it, you didn't you ignored their answer, you didn't provide a good elevator. So instead of employee using the elevator, they ignore it, they just want to use the stairs. So that's all. Thank you. So this one, step by step what to do after the survey. So analyze the result, look for patterns. What are the most common concerns? group answers by team or department to see where issues are happening. Like example, share the findings or be transparent. Summarize the result in a simple report or presentation. Thanks employee for their feedback and highlight top 3 concerns. What will be addressed? So that's what I said earlier. Next is create a plan action. For each issue, decide what step will be taken, assign responsibility, who will fix, and when. So follow up. Don't let the survey be one-time thing. Give update. Last quarter you asked for more training, so we're launching a new program next month. So don't just one time, use it like every month or every year. Depends on your company. So running the survey again after a few months to track improvements. So track it. So if there's an improvement, go make another question. So create another action. So in this part, let's put a real life example. A company finds that employees feel undervalued and want more recognition. So action taken. Launches a shout out Fridays every Friday so employees can thank co-workers publicly in a team meeting. So managers are trained to give specific positive feedback, weekly results, employee morals increase, and survey scores improve in the next rounds. So this one, shout out Fridays, these are good because it can gain confidence, it can gain more motivation, it can motivate you and yourself, also the co-workers who you shouted at. Next is creating an action plan from feedback to fixes. So in this part, action without ownership leads nowhere. So assigning responsibility ensures accountability. So how to do it? For each issue, write a SMART goal. S-M-A-R-T. S means specific, M measurable, A achievable, R relevant, and T time bound. So assigning an owner, manager or team, and timeline. Share the action plan openly and you regularly updates. So this is one to if the employee give a feedback, fix it. Don't ignore it. So your company will be a good rate. So follow up. So this one, post regular updates, newsletters, Slack on team or meetings. So this one is you can post if the updates about the feedback. If the feedback is you fix the feedback, so you can post it in a wall frame. You will create a wall frame in your office or in the door frame. So also highlight changes and give credit to teams making progress. So in this part, you can give a credit to the team who fixed the problem, so it can make progress. So if you create more credit, there's a chance they will make another progress.